The knock came at 2 a.m., heavy and desperate, like a fist trying to break through more than just wood. When Elena Marchetti opened the door of apartment 27, she found the most feared man in the city standing there swaying, a bottle of whiskey hanging loose from his fingers, blood soaked into the front of his shirt, and eyes that looked nothing like the cold, calculating eyes she had seen from a distance for years. Tonight they were empty, broken, human. "I need you," he whispered, and the words hit her harder than any threat he could have made. If this story moves you, hit that like button right now, drop a comment telling me what you'd do in Elena's shoes, share this with someone who believes people can change, and subscribe to Shadow Boss Tales so you never miss a story like this one. And before we go further, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from tonight? I read every single one, and I want to know who's out there with me as this story unfolds. Elena had lived in that building for 3 years, working double shifts as a nurse at the county hospital, coming home each night to an apartment that echoed with silence. She knew who Dante Rossi was. Everyone in the neighborhood did. Black cars, men in suits who never smiled, whispered stories of debts collected in ways nobody wanted to describe. She had passed him in the hallway exactly twice before that night, and both times she had lowered her eyes and walked faster, the way everyone did. He was not a man you looked at. He was not a man you spoke to. He was danger wearing a tailored suit. But the man standing in her doorway that night was not the man from the hallway. His hands trembled. His voice cracked when he spoke. He told her, in fragments that barely held together, that his younger brother had been shot 2 hours earlier in a deal that went wrong, that he had been the one holding him when he died, that the blood on his shirt was not his own. He said he didn't know where else to go, that everyone else in his life was afraid of him or used by him, and that somehow, in the chaos of his mind, her door was the only one that felt safe. Elena did not know this man. She had every reason to close the door and call for help. Instead, she found herself stepping aside and letting him in, because underneath the fear, she saw something she recognized from her years in the ER, a person in the rawest moment of grief, stripped of every mask. She sat him down at her small kitchen table, cleaned the superficial cut on his temple, and made him drink water instead of the whiskey. He talked for hours. He told her about growing up with nothing, about a father who beat him and a mother who left, about how the streets raised him when no one else would, about how power became the only language he understood because kindness had never once been offered to him first. Elena listened without judgment, the way she had learned to listen to dying patients and frightened families, understanding that people rarely show you who they are until the walls finally crack. By sunrise, Dante had fallen asleep on her couch, and Elena sat across from him wondering what she had just done, and why, despite every warning bell in her mind, her heart did not feel afraid. He came back the next night, sober this time, standing awkwardly in the hallway with a bouquet of grocery store flowers, apologizing for the intrusion, saying he only wanted to thank her. Elena should have said no. She should have shut the door and let that strange night become a story she never told anyone. But there was something in the careful, almost boyish way he held those flowers, so unlike the man everyone feared, that made her invite him in for coffee instead. That coffee became a conversation. That conversation became a habit. Over the following weeks, Dante found reasons to appear, fixing a leaking faucet she'd complained about, leaving soup outside her door when she came home exhausted from a brutal shift, sitting quietly with her on the fire escape while the city lights blinked below them. He never asked for anything. He simply showed up, again and again, offering pieces of himself he had never given anyone. Elena's co-workers began to notice the change in her, the soft smile she wore even during the hardest shifts, and when she finally confided in her closest friend, Marisol, about who she'd been spending time with, the reaction was exactly the fear she expected. Marisol grabbed her hands and begged her to stay away, reminding her of the stories, the rumors, the danger that followed a man like that wherever he walked. Elena understood the warning came from love, but she also understood something Marisol couldn't see, that the version of Dante only she had witnessed, vulnerable and searching for redemption, was fighting to become someone entirely different from the empire he'd built. The real test came when Dante's world collided with hers in a way neither of them could control. A rival faction, sensing weakness after his brother's death, targeted the one thing Dante had never let anyone near, Elena herself. She was followed home one evening, a black car trailing 3 blocks before she managed to lose it near the hospital's parking garage, her hands shaking so badly she could barely dial his number. When Dante arrived, the calm, careful man she had come to know was gone, replaced by something fierce and protective, a storm barely contained. He told her the truth then, fully, holding nothing back, that loving her had already marked her as a target in his world, that walking away from her would be the safest thing for both of them, and that he understood if she wanted him gone forever. Elena stood in her kitchen, the same kitchen where she had first bandaged his wound months earlier, and she made a choice that surprised even herself. She told him that safety built on emptiness had never once made her happy, that she had spent years protecting herself from feeling anything at all, and that watching him fight to become a better man had given her more hope than any careful, predictable life ever had. She told him she wasn't asking him to erase his past, only to keep choosing, every single day, to build something different from it. Dante broke down in front of her for the first time, a man who had never allowed himself to be truly seen, finally letting every wall collapse. What followed was not an easy resolution wrapped in a bow. Dante spent the next year systematically dismantling the parts of his life that endangered the people he loved, testifying quietly against the men responsible for his brother's death, redirecting the resources of his organization into legitimate businesses, and facing consequences he had spent years avoiding. There were nights Elena feared for his life, nights he disappeared for days handling threats she was never told the full details of, nights she wondered if she had made the most reckless decision of her life. But there were also mornings where she woke up to him making coffee in her small kitchen, quieter now, steadier, a man rebuilding himself one difficult choice at a time. If this story has touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like this video and leave a comment below. I want to hear your thoughts on Elena and Dante's journey, because your comments genuinely keep stories like this alive on this channel. 2 years after that first desperate knock on her door, Elena stood beside Dante at his brother's gravesite, watching him place fresh flowers there the way he did every month without fail, a ritual of memory and accountability he never skipped. He turned to her afterward, took her hand, and told her that she had done something no one else had ever managed. She had made him want to be a man worth remembering for more than fear. Elena looked at him, this man the world once only knew as a mafia boss, and saw instead someone who had fought his way toward becoming whole again, one honest day at a time. She realized that second chances rarely arrive wrapped in comfort or certainty. Sometimes they arrive bleeding at your doorstep at 2 in the morning, asking for nothing but a little bit of kindness, and it is what you choose to do in that fragile, uncertain moment that can change 2 lives forever. Before you go, I have one small request. If this story stayed with you, if it made you feel something tonight, please type, "I believe in second chances," in the comments below. I read every single comment, and it means the world to see how many of you still believe that people can change when someone finally shows them kindness. Elena never regretted opening that door. Some nights, she still thinks about how easily she could have turned him away, how different both their lives would have been if fear had won that night instead of compassion. But she chose to see the man beneath the danger, the grief beneath the reputation, and in doing so, she didn't just save a stranger standing broken in her hallway, she gave him, and herself, a chance at the kind of love neither of them believed they deserved. And maybe that's the truest lesson this story leaves behind, that redemption often begins with one person brave enough to open the door when everyone else would have kept it locked.